The crash was loud, like thunder tearing the sky apart. Ryan's small exploration pod slammed into the ground of an unknown planet, sliding through red dust and thorny alien bushes until it finally stopped. Smoking and broken, he sat in the pilot chair, coughing and bleeding from his forehead. Everything was silent now. No signals, no help, no other humans. Only him alone. The planet was called Varnax 6. Known to humans as the Forbidden Planet, a world filled with dangerous beasts and deadly plants. It was marked red in every galactic map. No one came here, no one survived here. Ryan didn't plan to land here. A meteor storm had torn his ship apart and forced him down. Now, his mission had changed from exploration to survival. He stepped outside the broken pod. The sky was greenish-blue. The trees looked like tall bones, sharp and twisted. Strange birds cried in the air, sounding like screams. He checked his equipment tonally: 3 food packs, 1 small water filter, a half-broken scanner, and his field knife. No signal to call for help. He was truly alone, or so he thought, as he walked deeper into the jungle. Something or someone was watching him, eyes hidden behind leaves, silent. And still he didn't notice. He built a small shelter from the pod's remains, made a fire using dry alien branches, and tried to cook some local plant roots. The scanner said they were safe, but they tasted like rubber that night while he slept. Something moved outside his camp. He woke up suddenly, reaching for his knife but saw nothing. Just the fire, still burning, just the darkness, still watching. The next morning he found something strange. A fruit talion, blue and glowing, sitting near his shelter. He hadn't seen any such tree nearby. Who left it? He looked around, but no one was there. He took the fruit, scanned it. It was edible, full of water. He ate it slowly, thinking hard. Someone's out there, he whispered. He didn't know it yet, but she was watching. A girl, not human, young, with skin like pale silver and big glowing eyes. She had no clothes, only thin wrappings made from jungle vines. She had watched him crash and watched him survive. She had lived alone for years, and this was the first human she had ever seen. She didn't trust him, but she was curious. Why didn't he scream at the night? Why didn't he try to kill everything like others? Ryan continued to explore the nearby area. Every night, the fruit would return. Every morning, he would find something new: clean water in a leaf bowl, a small pile of soft leaves to sleep on, or even firewood stacked nearby. It confused him. He tried to follow the trail one evening, quietly stepping through the thick brush, moving like a shadow. That's when he saw her, just for a second, a flash of silver skin and bright eyes. Then she was gone. He whispered, "Hello. Are you the one helping me?" No answer, only the wind. Back in his shelter, he couldn't sleep. An alien girl. He wondered, living here? Alone. The idea was both amazing and scary. This planet was deadly. What kind of creature could survive here? The next day, Ryan wandered too far. He was chasing a strange plant with medicinal properties when a creature leaped from the trees. A scarn beasta. Predator with long claws and a jaw full of knife-like teeth. It pounced at him, and he fell back, swinging his knife, but he was too slow. The beast roared, ready to strike. Then something hit it hard from the side. A rock, another, and another. The girl stood on a high tree branch, throwing stones with all her strength. The scarn beast growled, but backed off. It didn't want to fight with 2 targets. It ran away, disappearing into the forest shadows. Ryan was breathing hard, his heart pounding. He looked up. She was still there, looking at him. Their eyes met. For a long moment, neither moved. Then she vanished again, but she had saved his life. Ryan sat down, stunned. Who was she? Why was she helping him? And how long had she been alone in this dangerous place? As the sun set behind the bone trees, Ryan whispered to the air. "Thank you, whoever you are." Far above, the alien girl watched from the trees. Her heart was beating fast. She had helped him, truly helped him. But why? She didn't know, yet for the first time in years. She didn't feel alone anymore. The rain came without warning, hot and heavy, pouring down from the strange green sky like it had a purpose. Ryan ducked beneath the remains of a broken wing. From his escape pod, holding a metal sheet over his head as water splashed all around. Lightning cracked above. But it wasn't like Earth's lightning. This one was red and danced like a serpent across the clouds. He had learned something about this planet in the last few days. It was alive, not just with plants and animals, but with rules. Rules that didn't forgive mistakes. And something was watching to see if he followed them. Ryan wasn't scared now. Not really. He was curious. Who was the girl? Why did she help him? Why didn't she speak? Every night, she left things for him, fruits, herbs, sometimes even clean animal bones carved sharp like tools. It wasn't random. It was care. She was caring for him in her own silent way, but she never showed herself again, not fully, just shadows and movement, glowing eyes in the distance. Until the night he left a gift for her. He had carved a small figure from soft alien wood. It was simple, just a human shape with arms, legs, and a round head. He placed it on a flat stone near his shelter, right where he usually found her gifts. Then he stepped back into the trees and waited. The forest whispered. Strange birds sang to each other in broken cries. He waited for hours, barely moving, fighting sleep, and then she came. She stepped out of the trees slowly, carefully, like a spirit afraid of waking the living. Ryan held his breath. She was small, maybe his age or younger. Her skin shimmered like moonlight, and her long hair looked like woven glass threads. Her hands were thin, with 3 fingers instead of 5. And she walked with perfect balance on clawed feet. She looked at the wooden figure and tilted her head. Then she touched it, held it close to her chest, and looked around, right at him. Their eyes met again, but this time she didn't run. Ryan stood up slowly, hands open, showing no weapons. "I'm Ryan," he said, voice calm and soft. "I'm not here to hurt you." The girl didn't speak. She just looked at him, not with fear, but with something older like caution built from years of pain. She turned and walked away, melting back into the forest like she belonged there more than the trees. Ryan didn't follow. He just smiled a little and whispered, "Thank you." The next morning, things changed. Ryan woke to find a new gift waiting near his Sheltora necklace made from tiny bones and blue seeds. Strung together with grass fiber, it was beautiful. He touched it, then wore it around his neck with quiet pride. She had accepted his gift hand, returned one of her own. That meant something. It meant trust was growing. Not fast, but real. That day, Ryan tried something different. Instead of just working or gathering food, he built a second small fire beside his own smaller, gentler. Then he cooked extra food too. Portions. He placed the second near the smaller fire and walked away, sitting at a distance, reading from a broken datapad while pretending not to watch. And after a long time, she came. She sat near the second fire, ate the food silently, never looking at him directly. But she stayed longer than ever before. Ryan didn't speak. He knew silence was safer now. Her silence was full of meaning, fear, memory, maybe pain he couldn't guess. But it was also full of something new, curiosity. The next few days followed a quiet rhythm. Ryan would do something, and she would copy it from a distance. He carved another toy, and she carved her own. He made a sling from alien rope, and she made one from vines. It was like a game between children, played in the middle of a deadly jungle. Sometimes he caught her watching him when she thought he wasn't looking. She always stood high in the trees, her silver skin glowing under the light of twin moons. She never smiled, but she never ran away again, and slowly, Ryan began to understand something. She wasn't just surviving, she had been hiding. Hiding from more than beasts, maybe from people, maybe even from her own kind. One evening, while collecting water from a nearby spring, Ryan saw something strange on the ground. Tiny footprints. Not hers. These were clawed, wide and fresh. Too big for the girl and not from a predator he recognized. He followed them slowly, carefully. They led to a cave nearby, half covered in moss and vines. Inside, he saw nests, and in one of the nest eyes, glowing yellow eyes of a creature not yet full-grown, a predator cub. Ryan froze, but the cub didn't growl or attack. It simply watched him and made a low, curious sound, almost like a question. Then Ryan heard a sound behind him, footsteps, fast and worried. He turned, it was her. She stood at the cave mouth, wide-eyed. Not with fear, but surprise, he had found them, not just her, but her secret. She lived close to the apex predator's nest, and they didn't harm her. And now they hadn't harmed him either, for the first time. Her lips moved, not quite a word, but almost a breath, a whisper, something like trust had just been born. The jungle held its breath that morning. Birds didn't sing, insects didn't chirp. Even the trees stood still as if they were afraid to move. Ryan felt it first. The air had changed, heavier, tighter, like something big was coming. He crouched beside the spring, filling his water pouch, when he noticed her again. Nayari, the alien girl, stood on a tree branch above him. She wasn't hiding today, but she wasn't calm either. Her wide silver eyes were locked on something behind him. "Don't move," she whispered. It was the first full sentence she had ever spoken to him. Ryan froze. His fingers tightened around the pouch as he slowly turned his head. At first, he didn't see it. Then the shadow moved long, low, massive. It stepped out of the thick brush like a ghost from another world. It was a predator, but not like any he had seen before. It had 6 legs, sleek dark fur that shimmered like oil, and rows of teeth that looked more like knives than anything found in nature. Its eyes glowed red, and smoke rose gently from its mouth with every breath. Ryan's heart stopped. This was the Velcron, the apex predator of Varnexix, a creature so feared. Even its name was spoken in whispers by alien hunters across the galaxy. It should have ripped him apart within seconds, but it didn't. Instead, it just stared. Its glowing eyes studied him like it was trying to understand something. Ryan kept still. One wrong move could mean death. But then, Nayari jumped down from the branch and walked between Ryan and the Velcron. "No fear," she said softly to Ryan. "Show it you are not prey." Ryan didn't understand how, but he trusted her. He stayed still, his eyes on the creature's feet. Not its eyes, not its mouth. Slowly, the Velcron moved forward. Its massive head came close to Ryan's chest. He could feel the heat of its breath. One sniff, 2. Then the creature turned and walked away into the forest without making a sound. Ryan dropped to his knees, his legs shaking. "What was that?" he gasped. Nayari looked at him quietly and said, "It accepted you." Later, when they sat by the fire, Ryan asked, "Why? Did it accept me?" Nayari stared into the flames, her face calm but her voice low. "Velcrons don't follow commands," she said. "They follow instinct." "Then why didn't it kill me?" Ryan asked. She turned to him, eyes glowing softly. "In the firelight, because you are like them," she said. "Not a killer, but not afraid." That night, Ryan couldn't sleep. Not because of fear, but because of questions. The Velcron didn't just leave him alone, judged him. And somehow, it let him live. And Nayari had walked between them like a shield. No fear, no hesitation. She had faced death before. That much was clear. But what kind of life had she lived to learn this kind of courage? Ryan wanted to ask her everything, but he knew not to rush it. She had started speaking slowly. He would not break that trust. The next day, Nyari took him to a cliff edge near a mountain wall. Below them was a wide valley filled with strange fog and glowing lights. At the center was a rocky formation with 3 large holes like giant nests carved into the stone. "That's where they sleep," she said. Ryan realized this was at the Velcrin Den, the center of their territory. "Why? Bring me here," he asked, cautious. She turned to him, her voice soft but firm, "to see if they truly accept you." Ryan stared at the valley. The idea of walking into a predator's home was insane. But so was surviving on Varnic 6. He gave her a small smile and said, "Let's go." The walk down took hours. Every step brought a new sound, a new scent, a new warning from nature, but Nyar knew the way. Ryan followed without question. They finally reached the den when the sun was low in the sky. The stone was warm and the fog was rising. Ryan stepped forward, and the ground trembled. A Velcrin appeared at the entrance of the cave. Eyes glowing, body still, it sniffed the air and growled. Ryan stopped. He could hear Nyari's breath catch behind him. She didn't move. This was his test. The Velcrin slowly approached. Ryan didn't run. He didn't speak. He just knelt, placing his palm on the ground as a gesture of peace. The Velcron stared, then slowly. It licked his hand once and returned to its cave. Nyari ran up to him and grabbed his arm. "Wide-eyed, you did it," she whispered. "You're part of the jungle now." Ryan didn't speak. He couldn't believe what just happened, but in her eyes, he saw it now, something new. It wasn't just trust, it was respect. That night, sitting in front of the cave beside Nyari, with distant Velcrins howling at the stars, Ryan realized something. He was no longer just a visitor on this planet, he was becoming part of it. And the silent watcher, the alien girl with the silver skin, was no longer afraid. She was beginning to believe in something she never thought she could again. The next morning came with silence. No jungle songs, no rustling winds. Only a heavy stillness in the air. Ryan woke up near the Velcrin cave. The fire, nothing but cold ash. Nyari was already standing, her silver back to him, staring at the jungle. Something was different today, Nyar. Ryan asked softly. She didn't answer at first. Then she turned to him and said, "Follow me." That was all. No explanation, no warning. Just 2 words and a look in her eyes that told him this wasn't a walk through the trees. It was something more, something serious. They moved through thick vines and glowing plants, deeper than Ryan had ever gone before. Every step Nyari took was steady, confident. She didn't speak. Ryan followed quietly, trying to read her body language. She wasn't afraid, but she was tense. Like she was preparing herself for something hard to do. After a long walk, they reached a clearing with a strange tree in the center. It was tall and glowing, with smooth bark and wide roots like arms reaching through the ground. Beneath the tree were 3 small stones, ranged like seat sand, a shallow pool of water that reflected the sky like a mirror. "This is where my people trained," Nyari said finally, breaking the silence. "Trained for what?" Ryan asked. "To become one with the world. Or to be rejected by it," she replied. Ryan frowned. "What do you mean?" Nyari looked at him, serious now. "If you really want to stay here, to live among us, not just survive, then you must be tested." Ryan stepped back slightly, confused. Tested how? She moved closer to the glowing tree and placed her hand on the bark. The tree lit up softly under her touch, and suddenly the ground beneath them shifted. The pool of water bubbled, and a soft humming filled the air, deep and strange, like music from another world. "This place," Nyari said, "shows who you really are. To the jungle, to the Velcrins, and to me." Ryan swallowed hard. "What happens if I fail?" Nyari didn't smile. didn't blink. If you fail, the jungle will know you don't belong here, and it will turn against you. Ryan hesitated, but only for a second. Then he stepped forward and placed his hand on the tree, just as she had done. Nothing happened at first. Then suddenly, a sharp jolt of energy ran through his hand. His arm, his chest, he gasped. The world around him began to shift. Ryan found himself standing in a memory not his memory, but something deeper. He stood in a wide field, surrounded by howling winds and strange skies. Velkrans circled him. But they didn't attack, they watched. A voice echoed inside his head. Not Nairis. Not human, not aliens. Ancient, you carry fear, but you do not serve it. You carry pain, but you do not hide it. You carry love, but you do not trade it. Then the field changed. He saw himself as a child, standing alone beside a grave his father's. He saw himself years later fixing broken drones, helping other colonists survive during harsh times, always choosing kindness even when he had little to give. The voice spoke again. You protect the weak, even when you are weak yourself. And then it all faded: the tree, the field, the Velkrans. The light Tryon blinked and fell to his knees back in the clearing, gasping for air. Niari was already there, catching him gently before he hit the ground. You passed, she whispered. He looked at her, weak but relieved. What did it show you? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she pulled something from a small pouch at her side. Smooth, round stone carved with two symbols, one for her people, and one Ryan had never seen before. It's the mark of bond, she said. Very few carry it. Bond with what? Ryan asked. With me, Nayari said softly. They sat by the tree for a long time after that. The sun slowly set, turning the sky orange and purple. Ryan looked at Niari, really looked at her. She wasn't just some alien girl in the jungle. She was strong, clever, deeply tied to a world most humans would never understand. And she had chosen him not just to survive, but to stand beside her. That meant something. That meant everything. He finally spoke. Why me, Niari? You could have let me die, but you helped me from the start. She looked down, her voice barely above a whisper. Because when I first saw you, you didn't scream like the others. You were bleeding, lost, afraid. But you didn't scream, you just stood up and tried. She placed the carved stone in his hand. You were already one of us. As the jungle stars blinked into the sky, the Velkrans howled in the distance. Ryan listened, and for the first time, he felt like he was home, not on Earth, but here, beside Niari, on a planet that once wanted him dead, but now called him one of its own, a human. The jungle was no longer silent around him. Now, when Ryan walked through the trees, he heard whispers, not just from leaves or animals, but from the jungle itself. It no longer watched him like a stranger. It breathed around him like he belonged, and she walked beside him, nowned, hiding in the trees, not disappearing into shadows. She walked openly, a few steps ahead or beside him, her silver skin catching the filtered sunlight. Her hair swang like threads of glass. He finally knew her name, Niar, a name he hadn't earned before, a name she had never given to anyone else. She said it softly 2 nights ago, by the fire. She had whispered it like it was a fragile thing, afraid it might break in the wrong hands. But when she said it, Ryan didn't flinch or smile too wide. He just nodded and repeated. Niari. Like a promise, they now shared food, shelter, and sometimes silence that felt like music. Ryan was learning her ways, the way she listened to the jungle, how she could touch a plant and know if it healed or harmed, how she moved without sound but noticed everything. She, in turn, watched him fix things, little machines he'd salvaged from his broken pod, tools he made from stone and scrap, ways he measured the stars or boiled water more safely. You see things others miss, she said once. Studying him as he carefully used a heat crystal to purify water, you see danger in small things, not just big ones, Ryan chuckled. And you feel danger even when it's not there. She gave a small smile. It was the first time he had seen her do that. It was not wide, not bold, but it was real. Later that day, Nyar led him deeper into the jungle than they had ever gone. They climbed a tall ridge where wind howled like ancient spirits. And below them stretched a wide field filled with glowing flowers and long grass that waved in the breeze like silver fire. "This was my home," she said quietly. Ryan looked at her, surprised. "You mean before?" She nodded. "My people built a village here, near the river." She pointed to the far side of the field, where cracked stones and broken beams still lay among wild vines and tall roots. "What happened?" Ryan asked gently, her face turned sad, voice quiet. "They left me." Ryan's breath caught in his throat. "Why?" "They thought I was cursed," she whispered. "When the Velcrons first came near me as a child, they did not attack me. My people feared that, said I was marked, dangerous, not natural." Ryan's heart sank. He stepped closer. "But you weren't dangerous." "I wasn't," she said. "I was just different." She looked out over the field, her eyes far away. "They said the jungle had claimed me, and that meant I was no longer theirs." Ryan said nothing for a long time. Then he reached out and gently took her hand. It was the first time he had ever touched her. She didn't pull away. Her fingers trembled but held his back. "You don't have to be theirs," he said softly. "You're still someone. You're Nyari." They sat in the tall grass for hours, sharing stories. Ryan told her about Earthabout. Tall buildings, machines in the sky, blue oceans, and ice cream. Nyari listened like it was a dream. She told him about the time she climbed to the highest tree in the jungle just to feel the stars closer. About a Velcron cub she once helped when it had a thorn stuck in its pant, how it followed her for 2 days afterward. Purring like a big cat, their worlds were so different, but in this strange place. They were building something new together. That evening, Nyari gave Ryan something unexpected. A small leather pouch made from jungle beast skin, filled with 3 blue stones and a folded piece of cloth. "What's this?" Ryan asked. She didn't answer with words. She unfolded the cloth. It was marked with red paint symbols from her people, twisted into a spiral that ended in a human symbol Ryan had drawn once on a tree to mark his camp. Their symbols. "Together, it's our bond mark," she said. Ryan blinked, speechless. He had seen these used before in alien cultures. They weren't just for friendship. They were sacred. A bond mark meant something beyond words. It meant, "I trust you with my life." He took the cloth slowly and folded it again, placing it carefully in his shirt. "Thank you, Nyari," he said. She looked away, embarrassed, but proud. That night, as they sat by the fire, Nyari looked at the stars and said, "Do you still want to go back?" Ryan didn't answer right away. He stared into the fire, watching the flames rise and dance like spirits. "I don't know," he admitted. "I miss people, but I don't feel alone anymore." She looked at him quietly. "Even if rescue comes?" she asked. He turned to her. "If rescue comes, I want you to come with me." She blinked in surprise. "I don't belong out there," she said softly. "You didn't belong here either," he replied. "But you survived. Out there. You don't have to hide." She didn't answer, but she didn't say no either. As the jungle hummed around them and the fire cracked gently, they sat together, a human from a broken ship, and an alien girl once rejected by her own. But now they were something new. Not alone, not afraid, and for the first time, not broken. The stars above Varnik 6 were different that night. They didn't twinkle softly like usual. They pulsed, as if something was watching from the sky, waiting for something to begin. Ryan stood at the edge of the cliffs with Nyari beside him, staring up in silence for the first time in weeks. He felt a signal buzzing in his old communicator. A light blinked a weak, flickering signal, but it was there. Someone was nearby. Human ships, hours earlier. Ryan had rebuilt the emergency beacon, hidden in the wreckage of his pod. He'd forgotten about it until he found a broken antenna deep inside a fallen tree, half swallowed by vines. "I can fix this," he told Niari. She had watched him quietly, unsure. "Why call them?" she asked. Softly, "You have a place here." "I know," Ryan said, "but I need to tell them I'm alive." They might still be looking for me. She didn't stop him. But her silence weighed heavy. Now, the stars weren't the only things awake. Ships were coming. And they weren't just bringing rescue. They were bringing trouble. The next morning, a shadow moved across the jungle canopy natural, fast and loud. A human scout vessel cut through the sky. Burning the air with its engines, Ryan's heart raced. "They found me," he said. Shocked, Niari stood beside him on the tree platform, her face pale and unreadable. "They're early," she said. Ryan turned to her, unsure what she meant, but she didn't explain. A day later, the humans landed. Not a full rescue team, just 3 armed men in military suits and a tall woman in a gray coat with a scanner in her hand. Ryan stepped forward as they approached the clearing. He raised his arms and smiled. Name's Ryan Locke, pilot of Explorer Pod 17. The woman scanned him from head to toe, then looked at the others. "He's the one," she confirmed. The soldiers lowered their weapons. "We're here to take you home, sir," one of them said, but Ryan didn't move. "There's someone else," he said, glancing toward the trees. "Someone who helped me survive." Niari stepped out slowly, her silver skin shining under the sun. The soldiers tensed immediately. The woman in gray raised her scanner again, pointing it at Niari. "Unknown species, high-energy signature." She muttered. "Possibly dangerous?" "She's not dangerous," Ryan said firmly, stepping between them. "She saved my life more than once." The soldiers looked unsure, but they didn't fire. Not yet. "Are you telling us you've been in contact with a wild native?" the woman asked. "She's not wild," Ryan snapped. "She's a person." The woman narrowed her eyes. "Protocol requires quarantine and capture of unidentified lifeforms." Ryan felt his stomach drop. "No. You're not taking her like that." But they weren't listening anymore. The woman raised a hand. The soldiers moved forward with tranquilizer guns. Niari stepped back, her body tense, eyes locked on Ryan's. "You called them?" she whispered. Ryan turned to her, panicked. "No. I didn't know they'd do this, Niari, I swear." She didn't say another word. She turned and ran into the trees, disappearing like smoke. Ryan tried to chase her, but a soldier grabbed his arm. "She's dangerous," the man said. "Let her go." "No, you don't understand." Ryan yelled, pushing him away. "She saved me. She trusted me." The soldiers didn't care. They started setting up equipment drones, sensors, and cages meant for wild alien animals. The woman tapped on her wrist pad, marking the area for extraction. "She's just another unknown," she said coldly, "and we can't let unknowns roam freely." Ryan stood frozen. Everything he had built with Niari was falling apart in minutes that night. He broke into the scanner logs they had left open near the ship. He read their plan. They had orders to capture Nyria Livor dead if necessary. They wanted her for study. A specimen, a number, not a person. Ryan packed what little he had: tools, food, the cloth Niari had given him with their bond symbols. He left the camp before the sun rose. He knew the jungle better than the soldiers. He could find her before they did. He searched for hours, calling her name into the thick trees, through the fog, across rivers and rocky ledges. Nothing, until finally, near the glowing tree where she first tested him, he saw a shadow sitting quietly on the ground. Niari, alone. Her head was down, her hair hiding her face. Ryan walked slowly, carefully, and sat beside her. I didn't know they would come for you, he said, voice shaking. I only wanted help, not a war. She didn't speak at first. Then, quietly, she said, I thought I mattered to you. You do. He replied instantly, more than anything. Then why did you bring the cage? Ryan took the bond cloth from his pouch and placed it on the ground between them, because I thought I could save both of us. He whispered, but I was wrong. Niari looked at him, eyes wet but glowing. If they come for me, I will run. She said, I won't be caught. Ryan nodded, and I'll run with you, even if it means you never see Earth again. She asked. He looked at her without blinking. I already found my home. She stared for a long time. And then, for the first time since he met her, she leaned her head against his shoulder. The jungle was burning. Smoke climbed into the green sky in thick waves as trees cracked and crashed. One by one, like broken bones, Ryan ran through the flames. Coughing, calling out Nairi's name again and again. Behind him, the human soldiers moved with heat guns, drones and scanners. The woman in gray had given the order hours ago. Flush her out. The specimen must not escape. But Nairi wasn't just a target now. She was a spark in Ryan's heart, and he was not going to let that spark die in fire. Earlier that day, Ryan and Nairi had made their plan under the old glowing tree. We can't outrun them forever, Nairi said, tying a blade of bark to her arm, but we can outsmart them. Ryan had nodded, pulling wires from his old communicator. We lead them into the hunting grounds, near the predator cliffs. Nairi looked at him carefully. You understand what lives there? He smiled weakly. Yes. But they trust me now, remember? She stared, her silver eyes unreadable. They trust you more than I ever thought possible, and you. Ryan asked softly, do you trust me? Nairi didn't speak. She just reached out and touched the bond cloth still tied around Ryan's neck. That was answer enough. Now, the trap had been triggered. Ryan had led the soldiers into the cliffs, where the Velkrans, those deadly apex predators, watched from the shadows. The humans didn't know they were being watched. They thought they were hunting Nairi. They didn't realize they had become prey. Ryan reached the ridge first, smoke rising behind him. He stopped near a rocky outcrop and raised both hands. I know you're there. He shouted toward the forest behind him. The soldiers appeared, weapons aimed at his chest. The woman in gray stepped forward, face hard. Where is the alien girl? Ryan didn't move. She's safe, he said. But not from you. You've gone native, Mr. Locke. She said coldly. We'll deal with that once we bring her in. No, Ryan said, you won't. And then the growl echoed through the cliffs, low, deep, powerful. Velkran stepped out of the shadows, 3 of them, glowing eyes locked on the soldiers, tails swaying like whips. The soldiers panicked. One fired too soon. A flash of light lit up the cliffs. As the Velkrans charged, chaos erupted. Ryan dove to the ground as 2 drones exploded in midair. The woman screamed into her comm. Retreat. Call the shuttle. But it was too late. The jungle had answered Nairi's call. In the middle of the madness, Nairi appeared behind Ryan, pulling him up from the ground. We have to go. Go. She yelled. Ryan grabbed her hand and ran with her, deeper into the cliffs. The sounds of battle behind them fading into roars and cries. Smoke and heat filled the air, but neither of them stopped. Not until they reached the edge of a quiet river, glowing under the moonlight. They collapsed beside it, gasping for air. Ryan turned to Nairi, eyes wide. Did we just survive that? Nairi looked at him and laughed. A full laugh, soft and strange and beautiful. You did, she said. The jungle has claimed you completely now. Ryan chuckled, resting his head on a rock. Good, because I'm not leaving it. The next few days, the jungle slowly healed itself. The human ship was gone. They had left without their prize and, without Ryan, they never came back, and deep in the jungle, a new camp was being built, a home not of machines but of trust. Niari and Ryan worked side by side, building with vines, bark, and metal pieces scavenged from the old pod. They hunted together, slept near the glowing tree, and shared every meal in silence or laughter. Sometimes we would sit in the high trees and watch the stars together. Ryan would point at one and say, "That one's Earth." Niari would nod in reply, "Too far to reach." And not worth missing. This one evening, while they sat near the fire, Niari reached into her pouch and pulled out a small wooden carving. It was a Velcrin cub's, simple but strong. Carved with care, she handed it to Ryan, who looked surprised. "I made it," she said shyly, "from the same tree you carved your first gift." Ryan held it like it was made of gold. "You still remember that?" he asked. "I remember everything," she said. "The day you crashed, the first fruit I gave you, the moment you placed your hand on the tree." She leaned forward, closer than ever before. "And I remember when I stopped being afraid of you." Ryan didn't say a word. He just placed the carving beside his heart and smiled. That night, as they watched the twin moons rise above the jungle, Niari finally said it. "I trust you, Ryan." He turned to her, quiet and calm. "I always did." And in that moment, with the jungle whispering around them, the Velcrons howling in the distance like guardians of something ancient and true, two souls from different stars sat together, not as human and alien, but as something better: home.